So you talked a little bit about how did you make a transition from that to video games? What was the first thing that you worked on and how did you happen upon that?
I had the fortunate accidental thing to stumble into.
Well, Nate, we just had a chance to chat with Josh. I had not talked with a human that plays as many instruments as he does and has the kind of joyful disregard for norms. Josh is like, hey, let's play some music. It's super exciting. So that's the number one thing that came from the conversation for me is the joy that he has in his work. How about yourself?
I love this idea that you can do what you love, you can teach, you can educate, and that's kind of a way to, earn a living in whatever you do. And Josh is kind of putting it out all on the table and having a lot of fun with it. And so if you ever had any questions about flutes, this is the podcast you want to listen to. On to the pod. I'm Nate Cadillac, and I'm here with my co-host, Joseph Reuter. And today we are so excited to speak with Josh Plotner, a well-renowned musician, producer, and arranger known for his work for films, TV, video games, and much more. He's based in New York, and Josh has been a freelance musician for more than a decade. He is a saxophonist, woodwind multi-instrumentalist, composer, arranger, and international recording artist. In video games, he's performed in many known titles such as Yoku's Island Express, Red Dead Redemption 2, Remnant from the Ashes, Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, and more. Hey, Josh, we're thrilled you're here.
Hey, I'm very glad to be here. Yeah.
So we usually kick things off. Do you have a favorite game to play?
The one that comes to mind would have to be like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I think when Tears of the Kingdom came out, it was like May or June, and I lost a month, if I'm being honest. Yeah, that game, I didn't do anything like for a whole month. I just played that game, and I was really happy about it. The music, especially, that was so like. That music is everything I want to do. Like, not everything, but a lot of it. I was almost mad when I heard it, if I'm being honest, because it was like too perfect. And also, it's really hard to get a job at Nintendo doing anything if you're not Japanese. And I'm not. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom. Or, well, that's my favorite. But then a lot of what I play is like terrible little flash games, if I'm being really honest. Because like it's like because I get so deep into games, like lose a month on Tears of the Kingdom, that like the flash games are like non-committal and they're bad and like not necessarily bad, but like they're just like small enough and unseriousness enough that I can step away. Because as soon as I'm like I'm afraid of World of Warcraft, like that would end me. I wouldn't do music anymore. I just. But yeah, so final answer, Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. Ooh, that's controversial if I have to pick one. I'm not going to pick one. I'm going to pick both.
I'm really curious about, you're a musician, obviously, and what is it about Tears of the Kingdom? Like when you're playing that game, what is it that you're kind of blown away by? Is it I'm not even going to pretend I know all these terms, but like, is it the background music? Is it the clicks, like the little micro kind of audio sounds? Like what is it about the game that you're kind of looking at and admiring?
Well, on the music side, I mean, visually stunning, open world stunning. I mean, it could go on and on about that, but the things I can talk professionally about, on the music side, it's really just like the compositions are so well thought out and fresh, and also like their choice of instrumentation, because like my thing, at least as a musician, as a player, is woodwinds, and they like almost every song, not every song, but like so many of them feature like a really interesting woodwind instrument too. They're not, it's it's a lot less like saxophones and oboes, and a lot more like one of the village themes is like shakuhachi, and like the player they got sounds so good. And then I got really into it, and I was trying to figure it out. And also it's just really this is all the way deep traditional Japanese music nerdiness. So shakuhachis is the most common traditional Japanese flute. If maybe if you're thinking like a Naruto flute is what some people like think of, it's like easier for Western audience. So that flute, it doesn't play well in every key. Like, so you buy a bunch of them if you're a professional. so that you have a bunch of keys so you can play in modern music. But like Japanese music is kind of, the vast majority of it is just in one key, sort of. But in modern world, you buy a bunch of them, and they're very expensive because they're made by monks sometimes, or at least traditionally. But yeah, the key that they have is like a super unusual key in this thing, and it's low and it's like nicer because it's more mellow than the normal one. And like it's just like that attention to detail. And then they've got like tin whistles making you feel like nostalgic and like friendly all over the place, like especially in like traveling kind of places when you're on the road. Like a little tin whistle is just so friendly. And like, yeah, all the flutes, and then the piano stuff is really good. The harmonic, not to get too deep in the weeds with music theory, there's if anyone knows like Nare Soul, she's a piano player who's all over social media. She has an amazing video like breaking down the music theory behind like some of these piano things. They're complex but sound gorgeous, which is one thing I love. Like I think that's one thing I really look for in music. I love like complexity that sounds simple, where you can just have it in the background and you don't notice anything, and as soon as you look at it, you're like, wait, what? And Breath of the Wild, the score absolutely delivers. 100%. Yeah. Nintendo, call me, please, if you're listening. Nintendo listens to your podcast, right?
They do. Well, the shakuhachi? Is this how you're... Ku, yeah. Shakuhachi. You said it's really hard to make work. It kind of looks like a recorder, and that's how I feel about all of my recorder work. It's like really hard to make them sound good.
It is so much harder than a recorder. It is it's like if you buy a shakuhachi, and I encourage that you do. There are cheap ones. It's called shakuhachi YUU. It's like $200. It's not that bad. It's made of plastic. It's but like you will get it, and you will not make noise for maybe a week. You will just be blowing air onto this instrument and nothing will happen. It is the most cruel instrument. Like it is so hard. And then once you kind of can make a sound, like even professionals, like they'll just have a day where it's like not working and you don't know why. It's maddening. And then once you get it together, the fingers are really hard because you play more notes than you have holes. So you have to do like kind of cover the hole halfway in a really delicate, it's a nightmare, but it's an awesome instrument. Highly recommend if you want the craziest challenge of your life. Play shakuhachi.
Is this bamboo? Is that what that is made from?
Yeah, traditionally it's made from bamboo. They do make there are cheaper ones that are made from wood these days, and then the cheapest ones are made from plastic. And actually, I have a friend who is working with a company to make metal ones, and they call them the katana. Very far from traditional, but they make them out of metal too.
How often do you get to play this professionally?
I mean, I play so many instruments. It's hard to like keep in mind frequency, but I would say shakuhachi comes up like once every couple months. Because yeah, it's like when anyone wants a Japanese like sounding thing, like that's what, there are other Japanese instruments for sure, but like people, the people I work with are general. I don't really work. I actually study a lot of traditional music, but I don't really perform a lot of traditional music. So yeah, the people I work with all kind of want traditional sounding things that aren't traditional at all. And it's like, we want Japanese, but we don't know how to make Japanese music that well. Like,
that's like design where we need something that looks casual. So we'll use papyrus, even though it's for some bad modern restaurant. We want it to look handwritten.
Actually, because I, specifically with shakuhachi, because I get enough like call for it, and then I get things that are written for it that are impossible to play or would be just ridiculously hard. Because again, like it really only wants to play a few notes, which is why, as I said before, you need like a bunch of different size flutes to play in different keys. So I actually bought this thing called a shakuloot, which is where there's a guy who he basically takes the top of a shakuhachi and chops it off so that you don't have the shakuhachi body, and then he puts a silver tenon in it so you can put it on a Western classical silver flute. So you've got the shakuhachi top on your flute, and now you've got your flute fingerings, and it sounds similar to a shakuhachi. There are a couple when you have keys instead of holes, you can't like slide as much because you like with the holes you can slide off of it, but the keys allow me to shred like I can on silver flute. So I actually bought this thing for Western composers where I was like, look, you want Japanese music, but the thing you wrote is impossible for Japanese, and not impossible, but like really unnecessarily hard and won't even sound good for Japanese flute. So like, let me just shred on this, and like, this is what you want. So yeah, and it's called the shakuloot, and it looks crazy. It looks like it's like Frankenstein flute.
So if you go back to like your 3, 7, 10, 14-year-old selves, could you imagine having just had that conversation?
Oh, 0%.
How'd you get here from there?
My mom will verify. I've wanted to play saxophone since I was 3. And she thought it was a phase. So I started in band with everyone else when I was 10. And I was the year before my high school started forcing you to play clarinet before you play saxophone. And I'm so glad, because I had no interest in clarinet. Play clarinet now, love it. But like at the time, I would never have gone into music if I had been forced to play clarinet. So started on saxophone. And then at some point, a teacher was like, look, if you want to be you're so into saxophone, like you have to play clarinet and or flute. Like, and that's just like, it comes from like the big band tradition, like where there's like always like, they're like saxophone with a little bit of flute or saxophone with a little bit of clarinet. And I was like, okay. And I started playing them. And then I got really into them because actually in band, like the saxophone parts usually, at least when I was there, like in concert band, the saxophone parts are the worst parts. Because a lot of the times the composers will just like take the French horn part or something. It's like this alto-y tenor voice, and they'll just be like, yeah, saxophones can play that too. Like they don't know what to do with saxophones in concert band and this kind of like classical-ish marching kind of music, right? That concert bands play. So I was like, I want to get good enough at flute or clarinet so I can just play there. Like, so senior year of high school, I was playing flute in concert band because I was like, the saxophone sucks. I don't want to play the saxophone in concert band. And then I was also playing clarinet in the orchestra because they don't let saxophones in except for literally 4 pieces in the orchestra repertoire. So I was like, now I want to hang out with my orchestra friends. And then so I was like pretty strong on sax, clarinet, flute. Then I got to college doing music, and I was starting to think about a little more about like what I wanted to do professionally. And I was thinking about, oh, I'd love to do Broadway. And people were like, well, sax, flute, clarinet will get you pretty far on Broadway, but if you really want to work on Broadway, oboe. And I was like, I don't know if I want to play oboe, but I do want to work. So I started playing oboe in college. And then I got to New York, and I rolled up to Broadway, and I was like, one job, please. And they were like, no. The way Broadway works, in short, is that you kind of have to know people. You have to be in the network. And I hadn't studied with the people who were on Broadway. I didn't know the people. There's no audition process for Broadway. It's all kind of connections. And so like what you do is you start subbing for people. You play when they get another gig and they're busy or they're sick or whatever. And all those positions are full too. No one, again, people, they were like, no, thank you. And I was like, well, someone must need a substitute. Someone must have something that's like a really hard book. So the one I found that was really hard was Lion King. And on Lion King, that chair had 13 different flutes, which was daunting. But I was like, okay, like, let's go. Like, what if I just start with the hardest chair on Broadway? And so I contacted the guy. He kind of said, maybe, we'll see. And eventually I just kept like being persistent. I bought all the flutes, which is like pan flutes and like these Indian flutes, and flute and piccolo as well. And eventually he let me sub, and I'm still subbing there today. Yeah, so that worked out. But then I like kind of got the taste of like the world flutes, right? And I got contacted by this guy. I can't remember how he reached out, but he wanted to record some world flutes, and I was like, okay, sure, yeah. And then he was asking me for things I didn't have, and I was like, hey, look, like I'm Googling this flute, I'm looking at it, like it makes sense to me, like I could pick this up pretty quick. It's like, if you have like a month for me to like get this and ship this and learn this, like I'll do it. And it's like, look, and also world flutes are very cheap. Like flutes or non-Western flutes are usually really cheap because like keys are what cost a lot of money. Like the complicated mechanisms, like stick with holes, like stick with holes doesn't cost a lot of money. It's like, it's you're talking $100, $200. So I was like, wait, if I buy this $200 flute and get $200, I made my money back, but now I have a flute. And then actually much later on, I started doing like really bad, I guess it would be boy math, where I was like, okay, if I buy a $200 flute and I make $200 on it, the flute is still worth $200, and now I've made a 100% return on my investment. The stock market is an absolute waste of time. I can just buy flutes. Yeah, it started kind of just whenever it came up, anyone would be like, do you play this? I was like, I do in 2 weeks for shipping. Yeah, I just kept going and going, and it really worked out. And now I kind of am all over the place. And that got me more into especially video game stuff. Because video game stuff really actually one thing I love about video game music in general is that there's no genre and there's no tradition. Like there's almost every other genre of music has traditions and rules where like you come into jazz and you're trying to play a bunch of like very like straight technical classical scales. It's not going to sound right. You're not going to get jazz guys to, it's not going to be right. Like you come into country music and you start like playing crazy bebop complicated jazz licks. The country guys are going to be mad at you. Video game music has zero rules. There's zero tradition. And so they're kind of all over the place, and they really like, unique, unusual sounds. And, the world flutes that I play, are a great, kind of opportunity to get into that. By the way, I should just say real quick, I keep saying like world flutes or non-Western. There's no good word for like flutes that are outside the orchestra and jazz band. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, because you say like non-Western, but like Ireland is in the West, and like Irish tin whistle is also like a world flute, but also like I just want to address that real quick. There's no good term, so like I apologize. Like the shorthand world flutes is like the best one I got. None of it's good.
That's amazing. A detail I would not have considered.
Yeah, the new title for this is the ROI on sticks with holes.
So if you were going to go to the Museum of Sticks with Holes, is that just your closet, or is there a museum for this kind of like world flute?
Well, okay, so actually this is a funny story. I have started to really annoy my girlfriend because so she's an artist. She does like background stuff. She's worked on like Netflix stuff and like Disney stuff, and she really likes to go to the Met. We're in New York. The Met, Metropolitan Museum of Art, amazing, insane museum. They have a musical instruments exhibit, and I always want to go to it, even though I've already seen it. And she just wants, like, it's a huge museum, so she always wants to see something new. And I'm like, but can we go see the instruments? And like, I know I'm so obnoxious when I go there, because every time we just like get to, it's like there's like cool like banjos and violins and harpsichords. And then we get to the woodwinds, and I'm literally just like, got it. Mine's better. Like, oh, that one's like weird. Oh, why are they doing that? And I'm just like such an obnoxious being like, yeah, like I have that at home. Like, and mine's like, I don't know why would they use that one? Like, it's just me being a giant woodwind snob, basically. It's great. And she tolerates me somehow. So, but yeah, go to the Met though. It's very cool. The instrument exhibit, it's awesome.
So you talked a little bit about, working on The Lion King, and how did you make a transition from that to video games? What was the first thing that you worked on, and how did you happen upon that?
I had the fortunate accidental thing to stumble into online remote recording way back in like 2015 or 2016. I feel like once the pandemic hit, everyone was doing remote recording, but I kind of started a few years earlier. So I was in that space, and then I realized there was, a few websites and stuff where you could list yourself and be like, hey, I've got a nice microphone and a saxophone and a closet. Please give me money. And so I was doing that. And then I started getting connected with people all over the world in all sorts of different industries. And the video game people, I think my first video game was probably like a mobile slots game, like those mobile gambling games that I don't understand. I don't get the appeal. If I'm being honest, I don't want to rag on it. I don't understand it, but I've played on some of those. And then honestly, it was like kind of from a small network of people, like, right, you get a good relationship with some people, and then they start getting better opportunities, which means you start getting better opportunities. And eventually, if they're nice, they tell their friends about you. And it kind of started expanding out from there. Yeah, like one guy who I really helped me get into the video game space was Adam Gubman, who's an amazing composer and producer. He's all over like Genshin Impact and Arknights, and then he does Disney stuff. He's really cool. So, and I've been a part of that as well through him. Just saying yes to every opportunity.
That's a great philosophy to have, especially getting started in your career. Also do the same. Just say yes to everything. Yeah, you know, when it comes to making music for video games, like what is you know, outside of flutes, which I think is a category you own, is there like what are the most popular instruments that you typically are asked to use?
Let's see. Well,
or are we only hiring Josh for flutes?
I mean, it's a lot of on video games. It's a lot of flutes, or it'll be once in a while. It'll be like a big band thing with Well, actually, now my thoughts are all over the place. On Arknights, which I've done a lot of stuff. Which Arknights is super popular in like China. I don't think it's as popular in the US, but there's a lot of like really cool like jazz stuff that I've done. So I've definitely done a lot of saxophone with that. But besides that, I think in video game music, it's a lot of flutes because there's so much of this like whimsical fantasy kind of music in video games. There's definitely other kinds of music, but they like if it's metal, they're probably not going to call me. Unless actually, well, I did just play on the Hades 2 soundtrack. On this track that I absolutely love by Darren Korb. The track's called The Necropolis, and it is, it's this insane, like, screaming, but it's actually still flute. It's silver flute, and I actually played bass flute on it as well, but it's this insane, like, screaming flute thing. That was really fun. But yeah, it's a lot of, video games is a lot of flutes. If it's really cozy, I played on a game that is super underrated called HOA, H-O-A. It looks like Homeowners Association, which is terrifying. It is the opposite, or actually, maybe it's pronounced Hoa. It's like you play a Vietnamese sprite, and it's like the most cozy puzzle platformer I've ever played. Like they're not like, unlike other puzzle platformers, they're not like hiding things and making you go back, and like it's just like really beautiful art, straightforward but challenging puzzles, and then the coziest music. And on that, like that got, again, because there's no rules for video game music, like that one was like super orchestral, like kind of like cozy, like cute little like piano with like, oh, and then there's some oboe, and then there's some clarinet, and then there's like a little bit of violin or something. Big fan of Hoa. Hoa, I don't know how to say it. But you play a cute little Vietnamese sprite, and it's ridiculously underrated.
That's awesome. So how does it typically go? You got a game developer. Like, what is the way to ask you to make music that fails? Because I would imagine like you get pitched all the time and you're like, meh, seen that before.
So I don't know. I feel like I pride myself on kind of being flexible. So I the only thing that would fail is if it's like, hey, can you do like 100 hours of work and we have $100? Like that would fail. But short of that, like I appreciate that people come from different kind of backgrounds. So like if someone's really crazy, intense musically, and they're like, hey, yeah, we need these instruments, and like, yeah, and then this was going to be this, here are the chord changes, here's the sheet music, like boom, 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 like you're going to record in 48K sample rate, and like we need 24-bit audio, like boom, like awesome. But then I also like to work with people who are like, we just want something that's like round, but also like good tones and also flashy, and like that doesn't make any sense. But I've gotten stuff like that, and then it's kind of like a fun like translation exercise. Like it's like, how do I make that make sense? Like a little bit of mind reading, a little bit of, you know, this and that. But yeah, as long as people are like communicative and good to work with, I'm usually honestly happy to. And then yeah, just whatever. If the project is good, and like I guess if the only thing that would drive me crazy too is if the vision was like super unclear, where there's like we want it round and flashy. I'm like, I don't, again, round and flashy barely makes sense to me, but I can like kind of start to think of it. But then they're like, actually, we want it like really sad and simple, and I'm like, wait, no, that's, you can't, like, now you're just messing with me.
Yeah, and so you're talking about the kind of the role of translator in a client context. One of the things in getting to know your work that I was surprised by was almost like the e-commerce nature of your webpage. So you like land there and you're like, well, I could do this and I can do this and I can do this. And BTW, here are all my reviews. And it's not a small list. It's like all these reviews. I feel like I'm on Amazon trying to pick my music for my game. Like, oh yeah, I should do this. I'm going to contact Josh. Talk me through how you came to that.
Yeah, well, that was a benefit of being in like the remote recording space for so long. That like again, when the pandemic hit, I actually had a weird like feeling of guilt because I got a couple cool gigs out of the pandemic hitting, because like LA shut down and they were like, wait, we can't record like we normally do. How does this online thing work? Oh, this guy has experience already. And the pandemic was also miserable for me too, but there were like a couple like silver linings. But yeah, so all those reviews came from, yeah, just years of recording online. And which also gave me so much experience working with so many people. It's also a lot of it, like when you are just working with people text-based, right? It was just like emails, not a lot of Zoom calls, not a lot of phone calls, not a lot of live monitor recordings. You actually get even better at kind of reading people's minds and like translating what people mean. And yeah, it just helps you get more flexible. And then it helps you build a crazy website. I spent way too much time on my website. It's it's funny for musicians. Musician websites are usually,
that's not possible, by the way. There's not enough time there.
I was going to say, you just asked Nate to fight.
Well, here's the thing. Musician websites are usually terrible, and I feel like they're terrible enough that like the reputation, like I've sent people my website and gotten a response like, oh, that's okay. And like I know like what they're thinking, like because like it's just like it's like a one page, they're thinking it's going to be a 1-page scroll with like a half thought out bio and then like a couple like links to SoundCloud, and that's it, and like a couple pictures. Like that's a normal music, that's like so many of them,
and no way to contact you likely.
Yeah. And it's they're not good. And I was like, I've just gone the completely opposite direction where I was like, here's everything ridiculously organized. Here's I even went so far as like, I not only list all my instruments, but I try to have like little demos for all of them. And then even for composers, like, I didn't like it was already way too much time, but like I have a thing that's like explains how to write for them in like one paragraph, which is obviously too little information, but it's like, here are the most fundamental rules of how to write for like the bonsai, like, instruments that you've never heard of. Yeah, that's niche enough for most people. I was trying to think of something more niche. The bonsai, by the way, is a very common Indian flute. Any Indian people listening are like, that's not niche. And I agree with you, person who thinks that's not niche. But yeah, so I went way too deep on my website, but it's fun. So go to my website. I promise it doesn't suck.
Well, there's some added benefit to like, is it called the Nay?
I've heard Nay and Nai. It's like it covers a big enough region of the Middle East and Eastern Europe that you get different pronunciations. Both are fine.
Yeah, and you're like, well, here's the Arabic version, here's the Turkish version.
Yes. Yeah.
Like there's a level of acuteness and competence that you're just saying like, here's the stuff, do you want to work together, right? That I think is super refreshing.
Yeah, like it's because I'm really happy to nerd out and like educate my, because sometimes as a someone who provides services, like the trick is to educate your clients without letting them know that you're educating them, right? Because like you don't ever want to talk down to a client, but also like it's like, oh, they don't know enough information to do this relationship. And so it's that tricky thing of like trying to be like, here's a bunch of information in a very casual way. with finding that line.
Yeah. On the flip side, I think you see this with any profession is they speak to you like you should know exactly, like you're a musician as well. Or if I'm a designer, most of the websites are geared towards other designers, which is completely the opposite way to think about it. And so I like this. I mean, this appeals to me as a non-client right now. If I were to ever hire someone, I'd probably think of you because you've taught me, like you're showing pictures and samples of things. And so it's great. I think this is really, really well done. There's something between this and the intersection of what you're doing on social, which I find really interesting. And I'm curious how that plays out for you. Do you do a lot of tutorials and how-tos on your Instagram? And it kind of follows this theme that you're doing on your website here. How does that play into your overall idea of what, generating clients or earning revenue, or are you just a teacher at heart? Like, how does this kind of fit into your persona?
I would say a lot of it comes from me being frustrated that it doesn't already exist. I feel like a lot of ideas I have are, because like when you're looking for something on the internet, you just assume it exists, which is a very safe assumption. You're like, I want this. Google, give it to me, and Google's like, yeah, obviously. Here you go. And when I'm searching for these more niche subjects, a lot of times, like, there is nowhere online that I have found where you can learn about like lots of different world flutes like once in a while you find a page and it's like, it looks like it was made in the 90s and it's like really hard and like the history is like way too long and way too dry. And then the sound samples are really like low quality record. It seems like for some reason, like every recording sample of a traditional instrument was like from the 1970s on a potato. Like it's just like there's so little high quality stuff for like non-Western instruments, which there's no great reason why that is, because they're like, especially these days, they're pretty accessible. So yeah, when I think about the stuff I'm creating, I just am like kind of finding holes that weren't there, like, and then trying to fill them. Or even I made a series about how to write for woodwind instruments, like I was aiming for 2 minutes. Sometimes it became 3 or 4, but being like, here's how to write for the clarinet in 2 minutes. And the fact that like, because again, when I was like kind of looking for that and seeing what other people were doing, and like the shortest thing I could find was like 30 minutes, and they're being like, the history in 1774, the clarinet was like, who cares? Like, I just want to know. I want to write beautiful. I like clarinet. I want to write beautiful music. Like, there's only like 10 rules you really need. It's like, don't go higher than this, don't go lower than this. This thing doesn't work. This thing works great. Have a nice day. Like, and so yeah, trying to fill those holes. And then lately on Instagram, I've been trying to kind of make little things introducing less common, like instruments that Western audiences wouldn't really be aware of in like a really fun, snappy way. And then also just trying to write and produce a track. And man, I've been trying to do that every week, and I'm always up at like 4 a.m. being like, I have to post this tomorrow so I can do this every week.
The day before.
And I'm like, oh, I'm great at procrastination. I've been told my whole life that it wouldn't work. Like, it's like, oh, when you get to high school, you can't procrastinate anymore. When you get to college, when you get to the real world, I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Terrible. If you're a teenager listening, just keep procrastinating. Kidding.
I think what you're saying is set deadlines, because you'll get it done. It's just going to happen.
Actually,
24 hours.
Deadline. Like, if you were a creative person, deadlines are the only thing that works.
Yeah.
Like, there is no muse that's going to come whisper in your ear and inspire you. Just get a deadline. Just be like, I need this tomorrow. It'll happen. It's magic.
Yep.
Deadlines are the muses, the Greek muses that whisper into your ears. Their the real version of them is deadlines. That's what the muses are. They're deadlines.
So what motivates you to keep making this stuff? Are you invested in, is it to kind of get clients? Is it just for fun? Are you a teacher at heart? What is it?
That's a good question. I guess it's partially to get clients. Like, it's partially, honestly, you know what it kind of is? A lot of the things I've done have come kind of from frustration. and then like turning it into a positive thing. Like, so before like this series I've been doing now about like world instruments, when I was doing that, like how to write for a flute in 2 minutes, that entirely came from like the whole thing was that I was getting so furious that people were writing so flute, the lower notes are really soft and they really can't get very loud, and then the higher notes are loud and it's hard to get them soft. And like it's just such a basic thing. It's like, don't write loud low notes for flute. Doesn't work. And I was like, if I see one more person write a middle C forte on flute, I'm gonna. Then I was like, what if I just made like, and then I made like this really positive, happy video. And now, like, if I see that again, I can be like, I made a video about that, like, really passive aggressively. It's like, it's on YouTube. It's been on YouTube for years. But yeah, I like turning like, not necessarily like all the way. I'm being a little dramatic. It's not like anger. It's just frustration. But yeah, like, and also with all these non-Western instruments, like, it's truly like, I'm like, I think these are cool, and no one else seems to know about them. And then like when I try to talk to people about them, sometimes like you talk about something like foreign, at least to Americans, like, but I'm in New York, like it's a pretty like multicultural city, but you talk about like something foreign and people's eyes start to glaze over and they're like, oh, that's not for me. And I'm like, it's music. All music is for all people, in my opinion, at least. Like, but sometimes like you're trying to sell someone on like Ethiopian food and their eyes glaze over, and I'm like, look, you're wrong. You have to eat Ethiopian food. It's amazing. If you haven't had it, go eat Ethiopian food and like go, listen to cool music from all over the place. And so, yeah, it's a lot of times it is just like me being like, I kind of wish the world was a little more like this. And no one else is doing it. Honestly, it'd be easier if someone else was, but I guess I'll do it because I need something to do.
Well, just as a personal bias, I would love to see, and maybe you do this already, but like examples that are out in the wild and you're calling out that instrument. Like you find live examples of the instrument that you're talking about, this kind of rare thing, and kind of doing a simple breakdown like that. To me, it's really difficult to kind of pick composition and figure out what all the instruments are, but it's really fascinating to me when I kind of learn what those are. And so, just as a selfish request, I would love to see that in the world by you.
Ooh, that'd be fun. And actually that'd be a lot. That's a good idea. And there'd be a lot less work than some the content
than actually doing it yourself.
Yeah. Well, because some of the kind of when I'm like trying to produce a whole track and then like make a little information about a thing, it's like, oh yeah, just like listening, being like, hey, this is that. That's how that works. That's a good idea until I start getting it wrong. Ooh, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, my first thought was like, oh, that would be fun, like to make videos about Breath of the Wild, talking about all the different like flutes and stuff there. And then, it's funny because that would be challenging just because like sometimes things sound similar and it's like, oh, this like, it gets really tricky actually. Like there's a TED talk to give. I'm going to circle back to Breath of the Wild, I promise. But we're gonna digress for a second. I feel like I have a TED talk to give about how the reason I can play so many flutes from around the world and like woodwinds is because like they're not that different. They are different, and the music, like the traditional music, is very different. But the physical instruments, there's like 5 kinds of flute in the world, and like that's kind of it. Like because like not only is physics the same in every country. But human skeletons and faces are more or less the same in the whole world, right? Like we all, like 99%, 10 fingers, 1 face with lips and a chin and stuff. Like, so there are only so many options for like instruments you can make because physics. And so like there's a TED talk to give about like something world peace. We all made the same flute. Because you really can't be like. And there's even like kind of niche stuff, like the shakuhachi that we were talking about, that Japanese flute. It's really hard to play. I don't even understand how you could come up with like the flute itself, because it's like, how do you invent this? Like, I don't care if you are sitting around all day, pre-internet, pre-TV, pre-entertainment with nothing to. I don't understand how you ever figure out that this flute works. But they also figured out almost the same flute in the Andes Mountains, like around like Peru. Like they made the same, and like they weren't hanging out. This flute, like it depends, but like we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of years. Like they were not jamming together in the Andes and in Japan, and they came up with the same ridiculously complicated, tricky to figure out flute. But so there's all these similarities of flutes from around the world, which is like kind of cool and unifying. But getting back to the Breath of the Wild thing, I would be terrified because sometimes they sound very similar. Like, and I'd be like, oh, that's a whistle, but like, oh no, it's like this thing from this country because like that's what they played on it. And Nintendo doesn't credit all those things specifically, so I can't look it up.
But you could make like a educated,
I can make an educated guess,
informed guess. Yeah, you get like, I know this one. 30% chance it's this.
Yeah. But especially something like, you know, like most people I think know the tin whistle, but you find those like in like most European countries, they have a version of it that's like kind of, again, it's like kind of the same thing, but it has a different name and they play different music on it. But like acoustically and like physically, it's like, well, you made it out of wood instead of tin, but like actually, here's a really fun fact about woodwind instruments. It doesn't matter what they're made out of. Almost like even like woodwind musicians don't know this. It's just the internal. This is really deep. This might be even boring, but it doesn't matter what they're made out of. They don't have to be made out of wood. They don't have to. As long as it's like a solid, smooth thing. Woodwinds can be made out of any material, and it doesn't affect their sound. Deeply controversial statement, but it's also correct.
I'm just trying to think of all the materials I can use to make my own flute.
I just want, and just give me, whenever there are like comments being like he's wrong, just send them to me and I'll be like, ha.
Here comes the carbon fiber version. Yeah,
it worked. There are carbon fiber flutes and they sound the same. I started playing like 3D printed plastic mouthpieces because like you can mess with the geometry easier than like rubber or wood. It's like it's not that 3D printed plastic is better. It's just like you can make like for 10 cents, you can make like a bunch of different versions. And if you're making something out of wood or metal or rubber, like you really have to craft it and it takes a really long time. But yeah, anyways, that was all the way niche talk.
That's amazing. So do you have a printer?
I do not. I work with a company called Sios, and they help design them. They make amazing stuff, and we've worked like really closely, like tons of iterations to make amazing 3D printed mouthpieces.
Super interesting. It's impacting medical, food, instruments. It's all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm trying to convince them to make like more stuff too for like other instruments because I'm like, well, you could make this and this and we are so overwhelmed already with this one like kind of mouthpiece, and you're like, hey, yeah, but what if you did 10 other things? They put up with me. I really appreciate the people at Sios.
For someone wanting to be kind of cracking this code, getting into the video game industry, do you think being kind of niche and sort of owning a category is the way to go? Is it being more of a generalist in the instruments that you play? Like what would you recommend?
I would say at the end of the day, kind of with almost the entire music industry, it's just about people. Like it's just about knowing the right people and being friendly, and like even because I don't care what industry you're in, you definitely like know someone who is in way too high of a position that doesn't deserve to be there or like isn't qualified to be there. Maybe that happens all the time with music too, and maybe even more because it's like really hard to have, you know, it's not like there are music tests. There's no objective measures of right and wrong in music. So it really, really, really is a networking and people industry. So that is the giant headline. And then if we do want to talk about specifically what you want to get into, I would say like musically what you want to get into, having a personality, like kind of being a generalist is very dangerous. Like I actually run into this problem all the time. People assume that I just suck a little bit at a lot of things. Which is a fair assumption. Like, it's like, this guy does too many things. There's no way he can be good at them. And I mean, I try to be good at them. I'll let other people decide if I'm good at them. But it's like, that is, so being a generalist, you have to be, if you want to be a generalist, you have to be deeply passionate about it and be 10 times as good and constantly fighting, being like, no, I'm going to be amazing at everything and work 10 times as much. It's far better, and like, it's just like easier for people because also it's, if you're a generalist, I would say, and I'm not saying this about myself, but if you are a generalist who is amazing at everything, like one of those people who can sing and dance and act and like da, 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 that's usually intimidating to people and sometimes off put. Like they're like, oh, like I don't want to believe that someone can be that good because I don't feel like I can be that good. So being a generalist is, I mean, that's the path I'm going down, but it's a very tricky and hard path to go down. Because it's like proving to people that you're, first of all, being good enough because it's more work, and then convincing people that you're good enough, and then not being too good because then like egos can get in the way, or well, actually just finding people whose egos don't get in the way, I guess might be the solution to that one. But then specializing and also like kind of being the kind of person who says no, and being the kind of person who has a vibe, and being the kind of person who has honestly people who don't like them can be really actually kind of like, actually one thing when I started getting negative comments on my social media is when I kind of started feeling like I was making it, because I would and like for anyone, like if you're only getting negative comments, there's probably something wrong. But if you're the kind of person, yeah, but if you're the kind of person who has been like, you know, you get like all these positive comments because it's like it's from your circle of friends, it's from like nice people. Once you get to the point that you're big enough that people don't see you as a human being and they see you as like an entertainer on TikTok, right? Like that's when people feel comfortable enough. It's like, oh, this person's big, so I can like, you know, say mean things about them. Like that's kind of how you know you're making it. And also you don't want everyone to like you because it's impossible to make anything that everyone likes. So I would say once you find your small like 5-10% of haters in your comments, that's how you lean into 5 to 10% haters, like of achieving that much, I would say, because that's actually a good sign that you've like gotten rid of some people, but then you're leaning in really hard to the people who are going to really love you.
Josh, if people want to reach out to you, say hey, or hire you, or where are you living these days, and where can people find you online? By that, not your address.
My address is joshplotnermusic.com. Haha, web address. No, I'm on Instagram at Josh Plotner. At kind of everything, my name, you'll basically find me. Yeah, feel free to reach out. I read through everything. I'm doing stuff on Instagram and TikTok. I've got my website. I'm also in New York. Next year, I'm actually planning on spending a good chunk of time in LA and New York. So I'll be all over the place. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I always love hearing from people. Absolutely.
Well, be sure to check out Josh's Instagram. It's quite it's hilarious, and you're gonna walk away, you know, having learned something, which is really cool too. So
thanks for being here, Josh.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was a blast. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.